Welcome back. Thank you for joining us on the Polity. If you're just joining us, you've not missed too much, and we're still on the Polity, reaching live from the nation's capital. And now with me in the studio today, of course, to analyze the ministerial nominees and the antecedents is Uthman Issa Tochukwu, a legal practitioner. Welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
All right, it's nice to have you.
Merci.
Before we get into that, I'd like to make a list of the ministerial nominees, and I'll start with Abubakar Momo, Edo State, Yusuf Toga, Bauchi State, Hamed Dangiwa from Katsina, Hanatu Mustawa from Katsina, Uche Naji from Enugu, Betta Eju from Cross River, Doris Aniche Uzoka from Imo, David Umahi from Ebonyi, Nyesom Wike Rivers, Badaru Abubakar Jigawa, Nasir Ahmed El Rufai from Kaduna, Ekperikwe Ekpo from Akwa Ibom, Nkeruka Unye Jocha Abia, Olubemi Tunjojo Ondo, Stella Okotete, Delta, Uju Kennedy, Anambra, Bello Goronye, Sokoto, Dili Alake from Ekiti State, Latif Fagbemi Kwara, Mohammed Idris, Niger Republic, I beg your pardon, from Niger, Olawale Edo, Ogun State, Waid Adebaya Adelabu Oyo, Iman Suleiman Ibrahim Nasarawa, Ali Pate Bochi, Joseph Utseb from Benue, Abubakar Kiari Bornu, John Eno Cross River, Sani Abubakar Danladi, Taraba, Hamed Tijani Kwazo Kano State, Basun Tijani from Ogun State, Dr. Isiak Salako from Ogun State, of course, Dr. Tunji Alausa, Lagos State, Dr. Yusuf Tanko from Kebbi, Adigboye Oyetola, the former governor of Osun State, Atiku Bagudu from Kebbi State, Bello Matawale, equally a former governor of Zamfara State, Ibrahim Gaidam, Yobe State, Simon Lanlag, also a former governor, Plateau State, Lola Adejon, Lagos, Dr. Miriam Shetty Kano, Prince Shuaibu Abubakar Audu, Adamawa State, Professor Taye Maman, Adamawa State, Senator Sabi Abdullah in Niger State, Senator Alkali Ahmed Saidu, Gombe State, Senator Eniken Lupobori, Bayelsa State, Uba Maigari Amadu, Taraba State, Zephaniah Bitrus Jisalu, that's from the nation's capital, Abuja. And before we get into that, of course, there's been videos making rounds about the Senate presidents talking about making transfers for most of the senatorial, most of the sitting senates, of course. And I'd like to get the opinion of our guest today on what he feels about what he said. And of course, there's been a receipt showing that there were transfers made about 2 million naira to each senator. What's your take on this?
I thank you very much for having me. My take on that is that I've not seen that particular receipt, although I'm aware that a particular video has been circulating, for which I've been privy of watching, where the Senate president was saying that he mistakenly said that he
mistakenly. So if you say mistakenly,
he said that I'm coming. He mistakenly said that the clerk of the National Assembly had sent a token for all the Senate members for them to enjoy their break. And in that particular video, his attention was called, and he rephrased and withdrew the statement and said that the Senate president had sent a mail of prayers to all the senators to go and enjoy their break. But whatever that may be, assuming without conceding that they did send some money or some token, as he said in his words, to some senators, I do not see anything that is wrong with that. It should be part of their entitlement as senators, and they are going for recess. It is just proper that when you have worked and going for a break, you should have something to keep the soul moving on while you are on break. Even here in the studio where you work, I believe that when you are exercising your right of leave, there should be some kind of entitlement that this place confers on you. It could be financial or anything, just to make you to be stable while you are at
but even if people are taking leave and collecting leave allowance, it's not at the detriment of over 200 million Nigerians. No, and given the state of the nation, do you think these people should be entitled to, I mean, let's assume it's not even up to 2 million naira, let's say about 1 million naira for all of these people, and there's still been the tussle of incrementing their salaries as sitting senators when the whole country is in shambles. I mean, we still have the going back and forth about fuel subsidy and all of that.
I'm not aware that there've been an increment. I think that is at best for now a rumor. There've not been any formal approval.
There's not been any formal approval, but they spoke about it.
Having said that, I think whatever the senators are entitled to are being they are being regulated by their Senate rules and all of that. Some of these things are a question of law. If we want to question some of this entitlement, we must have to interrogate the law that provides for this, for them to adjust it. So long as those laws exist and permits them to so be entitled to such remunerations, there's nothing anybody can do about it. The only thing we can do is to begin to, canvass for support, to have the CSOs coming together for them to go to National Assembly and clamor for them to adjust their laws that give them some of these bogus allowances. But so long as those laws exist, they will continue to.
But if the laws exist and if what he did was actually right, I'm sure he bet he didn't know it was a national TV and that's why he had to retract what he said. It's
still a speculation, because what we have on record is that there was no money transferred. Even now you are calling my attention that there is a receipt. I've not seen the receipt, and I'm not going to be here to speak on speculation. God forbid. I'm a lawyer, and as such, being a legal practitioner, I'm not privy to speak on some certain issues that I don't have the facts. Right? So it is just best for me to talk about what I know, for which one of it is that the Senate President did said that he sent prayers via the emails of the senators for them to go and enjoy their break. But I'm saying that assuming without conceding that money was sent, as he said, they are entitled to those money by the extant establishment, the extant laws. Yes, that guys.
Okay, all right. Away from that, now let's move to the ministerial nominees. I'd like to start with El-Rufai, which of course he stepped down and said, oh, he's no longer interested. What's your take on that? Because there's been lots of rumors and back and forth, but then we're not going to talk about rumors today. We're not going to base on rumors. We're going to talk about facts. But do you think El-Rufai would have been a perfect minister of, I don't know, probably power, or like he was before he was Minister of State for FCT, and then he did a great job?
When it comes to El-Rufai's issue, I actually have a personal opinion about his nomination, prior to his nomination and all of that. Prior to his nomination, he had said that he's not interested in becoming part of the cabinet of the president, Bola Ahmed Tinubu. But at the end of the day, he was nominated. He was nominated after several pleas. Even the president had to send, some representative to go and beg him to come and accept his nomination. And thereon, he was thereafter nominated and, came for screening and all of that. But I'm now reading today that I read in Premium Times as well as a Daily Trust that he had stepped down his nomination as a result of the security clearance that the Senate alluded, on his person. And it just boils down to his destiny. He had earlier submitted to the president that he was not interested, in becoming part of his cabinet. However, he will be available as a private citizen to advise the government anywhere he's been required to so do. What I can only say on that issue is that El-Rufai, we all know, is a very competent person. We cannot, take out that competency from him. We could have our personal reservations on his personal conduct, the style of his leadership in terms of, how he handles his affairs, right? But one thing we should understand about public officers is that you cannot get it all correct. You must have some certain part who disagree with you, and also some certain part who agrees with what you do in terms of your policies. El-Rufai is a very competent person, no doubt. He would have been one of the best ministers Tinubu would have, just like he did in FCT. He was also Director General of Bureau of Public Enterprises before he became FCT minister, and led for the governor of Kaduna State, and did it for 8 years. We know his antecedent, right? But the question of his antecedent does not go far beyond the national security of this country. If several corners had written a petition against a particular individual out of 48 nominees of the president, and one person had received more than 7 to 6 petitions. It should be looked at, really. And that is what the DSS came and said, no, something had to be done about this. And for that, the Senate should please stand his nomination down or his confirmation pending the determination of the petition and whatever they have against him. And I think on the basis of that, it is just proper that we should allow the security operative to do their job with regards to this matter. Okay,
so speaking on antecedents, Kaduna State has been recorded for the highest level of insecurity in Nigeria so far. We would even take it from the train stations and people traveling and all of that right now. Do you think the president nominating El-Rufai as a minister would have been the way forward? I mean, given that he did well as the former minister of state, of course, but then as a sitting governor, of course, he tried with infrastructures, but when it comes to security matters, you and I know what the level of insecurity is with Kaduna. Well,
when you talk about insecurity as part of limb of governance, it's just one part.
It's you can't say one part. Sorry to cut you short. You can't say there is just one part, because your duty as the first person of a state is to protect lives and property.
You've just asked me a question. I was trying to build a foundation before I can delve into the answers proper. All right, you can go ahead. What we are trying to say is that even though the Constitution has provided that the first pillar of governance is security and protection of life, and that's why the Constitution made it very clear. The first rule of any government is to protect the properties and lives of the citizens, right? And where that has failed, every other thing may not actually stand. But if you look at security within our confines of federalism, you would understand that security is not a state issue per se. Security is a federal issue. So no matter how you try as a state governor to provide security in your state, and the federal government is not giving you that synergy that you may need to fight the security or the insecurity in your state, you may not actually succeed to that extent. And I believe that that's not a defense for the former governor. Of Kaduna State. But what I'm trying to say in essence is that insecurity as a whole is a federal issue. Nigeria was threatened by insecurity and still being threatened by insecurity. It's just that Kaduna had to share the majority of these issues of insecurity. And I believe that there was a time that the Kaduna State government had to synergize with the federal government to see how they can fight this thing together. But it didn't get the required attention that it needed from the federal government. And there's no way it could do that. If you want to procure any arm to fight insecurity, you must have an approval from the presidency. And if the presidency does not give you approval, there's nothing you can do as a state governor. So we could understand that what actually happened, El-Rufai as a former governor of Kaduna State should not take all the blames. Being the security, of course, the chief security officer of his state, he shouldn't be given all the blames. The federal government has a share, being that they are the roots of insecurity.
But the federal government isn't taking any blame for security right now. I mean, it's everything's a fall back. And you just said it now that there's been called for from DSS and all of that for security concerns. But then let's just move away from that. And there's been a lot of drama on this said ministerial list. Of course, they had to pull out one ministerial nominee and then not replace, basically, but they had to put someone else, and that's Festus Keyamo. Speaking of his antecedents, what do you think about him?
No, let me correct something there. Festus Keyamo did not replace.
I actually said that. I said he didn't replace.
He did not. Yes. I think it was just.
It was just a mere coincidence.
The headlines and all of that. Yes. What really happened is not something that I know. I don't speak for the presidency. Neither am I one of the nominees. But I do sure know that Festus Keyamo, having seen to have performed very well during the PCC, Presidential Campaign Council level. He was director of one of the departments, the media department, during the Presidential Campaign Council. In fact, he was the spokesperson of the Presidential Campaign Council of APC. And the woman you saw from the nominee from Katsina was the deputy director of Festus Keyamo at the PCC. Dela Alake was also part of that department. So by virtue of what is necessary, right? If your deputy at the PCC level had gotten a nomination or had been nominated, and another member who is also part of that department had also been nominated from another state. It is just proper and appeals to conscience, right, to nominate the person who head that particular department. I am saying this from my own point of view. That's my opinion, and I felt that that is what the president had thought. Having seen the antecedent of Mr. Festus Keyamo, having known his capacity in that level, he feels that it is just proper for me to
don't you think that corroborates the story out there that Mr. President is trying to repay his loyalists for doing a great job during the campaign season?
I cannot say anything about that, but I do sure know that every Nigerian who had followed the antecedent of Mr. Festus Keyamo.
But sorry to cut you short. You know he had issues with the Ninth Assembly, and that's partly why they said, there was a strong case against him leveled by Ninth Assembly, and where they had to receipt for his own hearing at the Senate.
It's not actually a serious case per se, because I was there myself at the National Assembly the day of his screening. You see, what happened between him and the Night Assembly was not even with the main complete house of the Night Assembly. It was just a session, a committee that foresaw the particular assignment he was given to do while he was supervising the National Directorate for Employment under the guise of SPW 774,000 jobs. Yes, it was during that time that the committee summoned him to come and give explanation to some certain things on how that program was conducted, and for what he feels was not proper to him. So he feels that the National Assembly could not box him into the corner.
But he intended an apology when he came forward.
Of course, he had to do, because at that time, the National Assembly demanded for an apology. And it would be inhumane of him at that time to not, apologize to the National Assembly in order for the country to move forward. At the end of the day, it's about Nigeria. It's not about him as Festus Keyamo or about the senators in the House. It's about the institution, the executive and the legislature. And no matter how you do it, and no matter how you look at it, he just owed that institution, the National Assembly, that apology.
Okay, all right. Let's take it away from that. I'd like to talk about inclusion on the ministerial nominees. I mean, some persons have said that Mr. President has done fair with the ministerial nominees. We have lots of young people. I mean, this is probably the first time we're seeing, 30-something-year-old people. And I think we have about 7 to 8 women on that said list. I'd like to get your own opinion about that. And then not just that, I'm still going to come to you, some wiki of River State. Don't think you've escaped that.
I think to be fair to the president, he had actually started on a very good footing. Having assured Nigerians that he was not going to be biased when it comes to gender parity and that of recognition of the youth. And we can see that from the ministerial nominee and some other appointment that he had done. Look at the person who is serving as the spokesperson to the president. I'm talking about Mr. Ajulenglari, the voice of the presidency. You can see for the first time we're having it that that young, and he knows his job. So and he also worked in the previous administration under the vice office of the vice president. It showed that he did his job very well, and Mr. President recognizes talent over any other thing, and that is what it takes to drive a nation. I believe that personally I've been an advocate of competence, recognition of competence, rather than paying attention to tribe, religion and other sentiments that could including what we could now call federal character, quota system. I disagree, and that's my personal opinion. Anybody can also differ with me. If we really want to move this country forward, if we really want to set a pace for good governance, it is time for us to begin to recognize competence, character and capability. But
you can't talk about competence, character and capability, without talking about inclusion. Nigeria is a state that is run, we have I mean, diverse ethnic groups and different religions and all of that. Are you trying to say that the presidency cannot get people from diverse ethnic groups and diverse religions who are actually capable and have nice antecedents to fill in rather than have? I mean, this said former governor of Kaduna State came out openly to say some things that I cannot probably say on air because he felt like he incited violence for a particular religion in Nigeria. Don't you think that there should be a way around all of these things?
The truth is that if we want to begin to hit on quota system to drive inclusion, we cannot divorce the fact that even when we x-ray that inclusion, we can still get competent hands, right? Okay. But where you x-ray the inclusion and you cannot, there are so many things we need to consider when we are making political appointment. Politicians mostly would always look at loyalty when they are looking at inclusion and competence. And when you're talking about loyalty, you could be competent, right? But if your loyalty is questioned,
loyalty to the government or loyalty to the people, because right now you are saying loyalty, you should know that the first thing that comes first, even though background, we all know that most of those people are there for their self-interest.
I cannot actually guarantee that.
That is why I said most of these people, because now if you are putting people first, I think loyalty shouldn't be the case. I mean, I was still going to come to the case of Nyesom Wike of Rivers State being a PDP person, but then we saw the whatever he did for the said presidential election, where of course APC won in that said state. So I was still going to say, I mean, there's been rumors on the street saying he delivered that state, and then for delivering the state, that is why he has a ministerial. He's part of the ministerial nominees.
Let me make it very clear.
Okay.
When it comes to ministerial appointment, right?
Yeah.
It's not about party line. The Constitution provides for the president to pick his ministers across all that state of this country.
Okay, apart from PDP, how many
matter whether or not?
Yeah, but I agree with you.
PDP.
I agree with you. How many other parties has he picked from?
No, that's not the question. The question is that he has
I'm throwing the question right now. How many other parties as the presidency picked from apart from
maybe he could not find anybody who suits.
You're trying to say in the whole of NNPP.
It's very possible. It's very possible.
We have multiple parties.
It's very possible. It's very possible. No. The fact is that the president has his discretion when it comes to ministerial nominee. He has his discretion to pick across party line, to pick across non-party line, to pick across the state, and whatnot. And when it comes to that, nobody can question the powers of the president to so do. The only time the president power can be questioned is what is happening now, where National Assembly has refused to confirm some certain nominees as a result of some security clearance, according to what they have alluded. This is the only time the president cannot force a nominee on the Senate to confirm this person. Once you have a security question, that question must be cleared. But to say that the president must, across party line, pick, no.
Well, I didn't say he must, but I'm just saying that people feel he's rewarding Nyesom Wike of Rivers State.
People must always
because he's loyal.
It's not about,
because now you yourself, you just said it now that the first thing that comes first is people want loyal people. My question is, loyal to the party, loyal to the presidency, or loyal to the people?
Loyal to the tripod pillars. Loyal to the tripod pillars.
And when you say tripod pillars, I'm sure our viewers want to know what that means.
You have just said it. Loyal to the people, loyal to the president, and then loyal to the constitution most especially. And when it comes to this loyalty, the question is, on whose prism is it to define this loyalty? Is it between me and you, or between the president and the person he wants to nominate? These are the questions we need to answer. Now, if the prism of loyalty or the prism on whose hand to question this loyalty is on the president, then of course we know it depends on the X-ray where Mr. President is viewing the loyalty from. Is he viewing it from the loyalty of the people, loyalty of the constitution, or loyalty of him to the president?
Okay, all right. I'm sure our viewers would have loved to dive into that more, but then I have to move to the next person, which is Oyetola of Osun State, based on his antecedents. I'm going to take Oyetola and Wike together. Based on antecedents, Oyetola was said to have been pushed out from the government house, and then they said he looted lots of things from the government house. Are we supposed to be looking at that said person as even as a ministerial nominee to start with? And then let's take Nyesom Wike. He is very good with infrastructure and looks like, okay, maybe he might be minister of I don't know what it is going to be. But then looking at those two sides by sides, do you actually think these people are actually fit enough to be ministers, especially the Osun State former governor?
When I started this a particular program, I had said that I wasn't going to be here to speak about speculations.
Okay.
They said...
It's not speculations. I mean, Osun State governor, these media aides came out and
proven. Hasn't been proven. Hasn't been proven.
Lawyers.
The Constitution said that every accused person shall remain innocent until proven guilty. As far as I'm concerned, the president will not see somebody who is facing trial before the court on a serious criminal allegation, right? And he will still go ahead and pick him for ministerial nominee. He will not do that. I don't think the president will do that, because he wouldn't be even proper for the office of the president. Now, this is just a mere allegation at best, and I'm not going to talk about that. If they had, summoned him before the court to come and, state clearly his position on that regard, whether or not, it would be a very good ground to start with. But talking about Wike, I'm not aware of any allegation also against... I
never said he has any allegation. I'm just saying his antecedents.
We are saying that, of course, you can see his antecedent, that people had even started alluding that the president might give him Ministry of Works, right? But those ones are on the grapevines. I'm not going to preempt the president. I don't know what is in his mind.
Yeah.
I can tell you today that none of these ministers knows the portfolio they are going to be assigned to. None of them would know. So, as a result, it would be best to say that we are all speculating that probably because of his antecedent in Rivers, having built several bridges and infrastructure, he built one of the best law schools in Nigeria, by the way.
Yeah, he did.
He built one of the best NBA secretariat in Nigeria. He built so many things. Give it to him. I believe that if Mr. President gives him Minister of Works, he will do well. He will do well. But we should not also forget one of the nominees, who happens to be former governor too. Okay. I'm talking about His Excellency Dave Umahi.
Umahi of Ebonyi State,
exactly. He's also a nominee. He did very well too in his state, yes, in terms of infrastructural development, yes. And that also could also go in for Ministry of Works. But we cannot preempt the president. We don't know what is in their mind. But whatever portfolio they are being assigned to, we trust that they are going to do well for the country.
Okay, all right. Away from the ministerial nominees, and I'd like to dive into, we cannot talk about what is happening on the polity without talking about Niger Republic. Of course, we share boundaries with them. And now there's been lots of back and forth. There's been meetings with ECOWAS and, of course, the African Union on whether the presidency should, of course, the president is doubling as a chairman of ECOWAS, of course, and most of this power relies on him. And now he actually went to the Senate, and now they've said he's not been given the approval, of course, to deliver the military, go into war with them. What's your take on that?
Yeah, I think he just the Senate did the proper thing, because ECOWAS by law, in line with the provisions of the Constitution, cannot actually go into war with another country without the approval of the National Assembly. Okay. And as of today, the National Assembly are on recess to resume by September. Okay. So it means that whatever deliberations the ECOWAS might have, it's not possible for them to still deploy the military in Niger for that particular war without necessarily seeking the approval of the National Assembly. So I don't know the outcome of their deliberation or what their resolution or communique is going to be. But whatever it is, I'm not a fan of coup. Okay. I believe that Africans can solve their problem without necessarily making a recourse to the West. They should come back home together and sit within the round table to find a solution to their problem. It's very unfortunate the coup had taken place, and I believe that the best way to solve this problem is not going into war. You will not know the implication until thereafter. Yes, because in every war that happens in any nation, there must be beneficiaries. There are beneficiaries of war, and we shouldn't allow these people to run down our continent for us. I urge ECOWAS to exercise, their height of wisdom as they embark in this deliberation, but not necessarily embarking in war against Niger. Okay,
still speaking on Niger, I mean, before you even clocked a week, where the ECOWAS actually gave them a week to actually dismantle whatever they planned on doing. But then they, of course, resisted, and Nigeria actually cut off electricity power supply. And then as of yesterday, there's been reports that Nigeria is actually owing Nigerian electricity lots of billions of money and all of that. And now with the war going on, are we looking at letting it go, or it's something that we just have to overlook at given the current state of Nigeria right now?
You know, you cannot actually compound a problem on top of a problem.
On top of a problem.
Right now, Niger is having a serious governance turbulence. This is one of the critical moments in their life as a nation, and I believe that it's not the best time to go and seek for your debts against that particular.
But then
somebody is owing you and he's sick, admitted in the hospital, and you are going to tell him that.
But MEC isn't finding it the same way we are seeing it right now.
No, the truth is that, just like I've said, it is very important that ECOWAS should, at this time, including Nigeria, should exercise ultimate restraint and wisdom while they embark on this thing, because there is just a thin line between peace and violence. And at this point, it's not the best to go for war.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much for being on the program with us today. I really do appreciate it. It's been a nice one. And our viewers at home, this is where we wrap it up today for the Polity. Thank you for staying with us today on the Polity, and of course over the week. And my name remains Babajide. See you same time, same station next week. Bye.